Welcome to my journey of growing with language. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello. I am Hannah Foley, and I was the prc-saltillo intern this summer. I have been using a device since I was about 5 years old. I was resistant to using my device when I was younger because I felt that it made me look different from my peers. Since then, I have changed devices and I now use it every day to communicate, which has opened many doors to independence, success, and many different opportunities and experiences for me. A few of those doors has been attending school at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign as well as having my internship this summer. Augmentative and alternative communication has opened my world and I cannot wait to see where it leads me next.
Throughout my whole educational career, I was in all regular education classrooms, so all of my peers and friends at school did not have disabilities. At first, you may think that it was great that I was integrated in the mainstream educational system. Well, you are right, until it came to using AAC. Throughout all of grade school, I had a Dynavox. If you have ever seen the older versions of the Dynavox, you have probably noticed how big, bulky, and unsightly it was. Do you think that an intelligent and sociable young girl would want to walk around grade school and middle school with a big and ugly thing, and have your peers look at you wondering why you am carrying such a device around with them? Absolutely not. I hated the Dynavox for these reasons. Throughout grade school, using AAC made me feel even more different from my peers than I already felt because of my physical disability. Because of this, I refused to have my device mounted to my chair and I was very resistant to using AAC. During my freshman year of high school, I started seeing an AAC specialist, Matt Bod. Matt quickly noticed my strong opposition to using AAC. He sat me down and asked me why I had such opposition. I explained to him that it makes me feel even more different from my peers than I already am. Matt was very straightforward with me and explained that if I was going to go to college and be a successful member of society, I had to stop relying on an aide or family member to interpret for me. I had no choice other than to use AAC to be independent and achieve my goals in life. I thought long and hard about his words to me. Something clicked one day. I realized that Matt, along with various other people, knew what he was talking about. I allowed my iPad to be mounted on my wheelchair and slowly began using it in social situations and to give presentations for classes. Senior year of high school rolled around and you know what that means, picking a college and a future career. Choosing both of those things is no simple task for any 18-year-old. I knew that I wanted to attend the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Although it was going to be very difficult to be admitted, I never gave up on my dream and my family and friends never stopped supporting me. I took the ACT 3 times, and the third time was the charm. I finally got a high enough score to be considered for admission to the university. The next challenge was to select my major. My mom and I brainstormed various different career paths about which I was interested. I thought that I would like to pursue a degree in social media marketing for some time, but then, something changed. One morning during my senior year of high school, my mom was driving me to school. Instead of thinking about how I was going to tackle my physics test I had first period, I was thinking about what I was going to do after graduation that May and for the rest of my life. On my way to school, I said to my mom, "Mom, I don't think I want to do social media marketing. I want to be like Matt and help others just like he helped me." This is when I decided I wanted to become an augmentative and alternative communication specialist or an assistive technology specialist. I am currently a senior at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign studying communication. I live on campus and manage my own staff of personal assistants who are responsible for helping me with activities of daily living that I am unable to do for myself on top of taking a full course load each semester. While on campus, I am a member of Illini Service Dogs, where I help train mobility service dogs. Last school year, I was a mentor to the incoming freshmen who have physical disabilities and was a teaching assistant for the mandatory class that all incoming freshmen have to take on how to transition to college with a physical disability and how to hire and manage personal assistants. Outside of college, I am a mentor to others who use AAC, and I am transitioning into a prc-saltillo ambassador at the conclusion of my internship. I will be traveling with the company to conferences, stepping in and helping consultants when needed, public speaking on behalf of the company, and of course advocating for and mentoring others who use AAC. My current AAC solution encompasses a variety of different platforms and applications, but my primary communication solution is an iPad with touch chat with Word Power 80. I use direct selection for my access method. Furthermore, since I use all Apple products, all of my devices are synced together, so if I type a long speech on my laptop, it automatically shows up on my iPad. This makes it very easy to copy and paste longer texts directly into Touch Chat. I also use Skype and or FaceTime on my laptop, while I use my iPad for verbal communication in conjunction with my verbal speech. Now, you may be asking, if AAC is such a powerful thing and has the potential to open so many doors to opportunities, why are teens and young adults so resistant to using it? Why don't they just use it? Well, it's not so simple. You must remember that the person is being exposed to outside forces that may be enhancing their resistance to using AAC. Each person is different, but there are often common reasons to why resistance to using AAC is present. We saw the first two of these explanations with me. The first reason, and probably the most common reason, is that teens feel social pressure to fit in with society. In order to do so, they either adopt behaviors, attitudes, etc. that are seen as cool or socially acceptable by peers, or they resist or boycott those that are seen as unacceptable or uncool by peers. In response to such social pressure, they resist using a device so that they can conform to societal norms. This is often one of the many possible reasons for why teens and young adults resist the use of AAC. They have been taught that it makes them different from everyone else. They do not want to be quote-unquote different, so they respond with resistance. The next 4 reasons why teens and young adults resist using AAC focus on the personal perspective of a communicator. They often use the argument that their family is able to understand what they say, so they don't need an AAC device. For most of their life, they have been around family mostly, and they can use their own version of sign language, nonverbals, or spoken speech to communicate their wants and needs. Furthermore, teens and young adults may be resistant to using AAC because they have never been expected to use AAC to communicate in school or in social situations. They get so used to people having low expectations for them that when they really need to communicate and people are unable to understand sign language or their verbal speech, they have no other communication method because they have never been expected to have one. Now, let's say that we have a teen or young adult who is nonverbal and someone suggests that they use an AAC device, but they have had a terrible experience with the device when they were little. Because of that horrific experience that they had, say 10 years ago, with an AAC device, they are going to resist trying to use it again later in life and say that they do not like it even before they try it again. The 6th reason is that teens and young adults are typically very defensive when it comes to others making suggestions. When they are introduced to AAC, they get defensive and say that this is who I am, this is how I communicate, so you are not going to change me or how I communicate. They feel like using AAC will change their identity and how they are perceived by society, and they don't want that, so they just refuse to use AAC to communicate. The last reason why teens and young adults resist using AAC is that there is a severe lack of literacy skills among AAC users. Less than 10% of AAC users are able to read beyond the second grade level. If they can't read what the buttons on their device say, how and why would they use it? The answer is logical. They resist using it because they do not have the adequate skills to do so. So, how can we break down and push through resistance to AAC in teens and young adults? Typically, this population is very stubborn, so you cannot just tell them that they have to use it because you said so. This will likely make them more resistant to using a device, and that is counterproductive to what we are trying to do. So, the first step is to educate them not only about AAC, but you need to educate them about their disability. Oftentimes, children who have disabilities are never properly educated on their disability and the ways in which it impacts their life. They may not realize that they have a speech impairment, and people who are not around them every day cannot understand their verbal speech. They are often at home with family and close friends, or at school where they can be understood by the people who know them well. The teen or young adult has most likely built a strong relationship with at least one person at school and at home who is able to understand their verbal speech. Therefore, they have never been properly educated on their speech impairment and disability. In order to make them realize and understand that they do have a speech impairment, and not everyone will be able to understand their verbal speech, the teen or young adult must be educated on their disability, specifically their speech impairment, and how it impacts their life. Also, they need to explain the importance of communication in everyday life. They might say that they are able to communicate effectively. While this may be true, they most likely are using gestures, their own version of sign language, or simply pointing at something and grunting in order to express their wants and needs. Such means of communication are effective at getting their main point across, but there are several issues with pointing and grunting as primary communication methods. 1. As the teen or young adult gets older, pointing and grunting is not appropriate or socially acceptable. Let's think about it. On the previous slide, we said that one of the reasons why resistance to AAC is present could be because teens and young adults feel social pressure to fit in with the large society, not feel different from their peers, and to conform to social norms. Well, if a teenager or young adult is pointing and grunting in public settings to communicate, the fact is that people are going to stare at them and give them strange looks. If that same teenager stops pointing and grunting and uses an AAC device, people may still look at them, but they will be looking at them because they are interested in their device and want to learn more about it. Also, using pointing and grunting and gestures to communicate can only go so far and can sometimes be ambiguous. More often than not, it is very unclear to us to what the person is trying to communicate through pointing and grunting. They might be pointing at the bathroom because they have to go to the bathroom, but someone might think that they are pointing at the door because they want to go outside. The person may take the child outside, and the minute they get out of the door, they start throwing a tantrum and displaying negative behaviors because they are frustrated and they can't communicate that they have to go to the bathroom. This communication breakdown can also happen when a nonverbal teen or young adult is trying to express their ideas, and the other person misinterprets their gestures and pointing and grunting as something completely different than what they mean. Similarly, communication is key to expressing knowledge and intelligence. AAC enables individuals to be engaged in school, extracurricular activities, and in the larger society. Using AAC leads to opportunities and success in all aspects of life. Moreover, teens and young adults need to be aware of the consequences that they will face if they continue to resist using AAC. Explain that it limits social interaction and opportunities to build relationships with their friends and family. Explain that it limits academic success and opportunities for academic and social enjoyment. Explain that it limits their employment opportunities. And lastly, explain that it hinders their independence now and in the future. If they continue to depend upon those who know them well, such as their parents, family, and paraprofessionals to interpret what they are trying to communicate to other people, they will never be able to be independent. They must use AAC if they want to achieve any independence in life. Lastly, these teens and young adults who are resistant to using AAC need to be taught literacy skills. Think about it. If you were given a book to read and the entire book was in a foreign language that you do not know, would you be willing to try to read that book? Most of you would probably say no. Now, think about how a teen or young adult feels when they are given a device with all these words on it and they are expected to communicate and build sentences with words that they do not even know what they say. They get very overwhelmed and frustrated, which then turns into resistance. Teens and young adults who have communication impairments must be taught literacy skills so that they can communicate properly. The second step to break down and overcome resistance in teens and young adults is to frame it differently. If you frame using AAC in a positive way, give them the necessary resources and tools to be successful, and create a positive environment for learning and growing, you will be able to make progress towards breaking down resistance to AAC in teens and young adults. One of the biggest things you can do is find a speech-language pathologist or AAC specialist who is a good match for the learner's personality. You can find 2 to 3 and let them try a session with each and see who they connect the best with. This may help them feel ownership and invested in their therapy. If you find the right person, they may be able to have a serious conversation with the device user to help break down their resistance to AAC. Maybe they do not like the specific device or vocabulary file that they are currently using, and thus creating resistance. Investigate and trial different systems or vocabularies to find the right fit. Everyone is different, has different needs and preferences. Maybe they just don't like their current AAC solution. There are hundreds of different communication systems and vocabulary files. You need to find the correct one for the person if you want them to use it. You can also find a coach for the AAC user to work with. Do not frame it as a problem. A coach can help you get better at what you do. Just like if you wanted to play basketball, a coach helps you learn new strategies and improve your skills. Finally, frame AAC as a tool that can help them reach personal goals. Think about different ways the person wants to succeed and what they want to accomplish, such as going to college, getting a job, finding a partner, learning a hobby, communicating with friends, or whatever their goals are. Using AAC will help them achieve those goals. You have to get to know the teen or young adult and their parents or guardian, build a relationship with them, and adjust the strategies according to their personality and situation. Everyone is different and different strategies work for different people.
For many young people, resistance is a protective mechanism. They are still developing mentally, emotionally, and physically, and resistance is one way to protect themselves. But important things are not settled with one conversation. Listen to the person and how they are feeling. Try asking questions and helping them reflect on their feelings. It seems like you really don't like the idea of using AAC. I'm not going to try and talk you into liking something you don't want, but I just wanted to ask, what don't you like about using AAC? Progress may come gradually. Strengthen your connection, and they may turn to you when they are ready.
I am currently finishing up my college career as an undergraduate. I have 3 semesters left until I graduate, and then I plan on attending graduate school at the University of Illinois at Chicago to complete my assistive technology certification in order to enable myself to continue doing the work that I love so much as an AAC specialist, assistive technology specialist, and/or consultant. As I prepare to leave my position at prc-saltillo as the Product and Service Development Intern, I am thrilled and very honored to be becoming a prc-saltillo ambassador and continue working for one of the greatest companies and with amazing people. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wish each of you the best of luck in your future endeavors, and maybe we will cross paths someday.